संसारदावानललितलोका त्रणयकारुण्या घन घनात्वं प्राप्तस्य कल्याणगुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् महाप्रभो कीर्तन नित्य गीता वादित्रमाद्यान् मनसोरसेना रोमाञ्चकम्पासुतरङ्गभाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधननित्यनाना शृङ्गारतान्मन्दिरमार्जनादौ युक्तस्य भक्तां च नयञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् चतुर्विधा श्रीभगवत्प्रसाद स्वादन्नतृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजतः सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपार माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपानाम्नाम् प्रतीक्षणास्वादनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् निकुञ्जयूनो रतिकेलिसिद्धै यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रातिदाक्ष्यात् अतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् साक्षाद्धरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रै उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभोय प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायांस्तुवं तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् ध्यायांस्तुवं तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्यते नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंद प्रभु जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha, Gopal Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohana, Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Sri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha, Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshan. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadaine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंह बहिर्नरसिंह हृदये नरसिंह नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरेणखाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ए अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ए अभिलाषी जे तुम्हार शरण लो तारा वंश पूर्ण होय कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा ये अभिलाष बिलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि निवेदनदारो सखीरनुगात कोरो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दास को ये ना मोरा होय दीना कृष्ण दास को ये ना मोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये ना बासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न बासी यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमहत्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमहत्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमहत्यधिकानि Dakshina Pade Pade. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Tulsi Maharani, Jayo Tulsi Maharani, Jayo Tulsi Maharani, Jayo Tulsi Maharani. Jayo Vrinda Devi, Jayo Vrinda Devi, Jayo Vrinda Devi, Jayo Vrinda Devi. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
And Krishna. I beg you to make me follow a Kara dance of the Virgin. Please give me the privileged devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 fences in the metal chanting holy name that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Veda literature or literature in pursuance of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, offering the Vedas fruit activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about God's holy name. 10. To not complete faith in chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses. In order to quickly achieve desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us have most humble obeisances on all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as high trees who can fulfill to everyone, and they are full of compassion for fallen conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhavamahadavakni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chantrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Purivardhanam Pratipadam Purunarmita Sadhanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Nam Agadi Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranina Kalaha Etadeshita Varkripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudevami Disham Yaha Janina Nuragaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manatena Kirtanya Sadaharihi Na Dhanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishvare Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvai Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sthita Duri Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Galadashuru Dharaya Vatanam Gadgada Rudaya Gira Puraka Nichitam Vapur Kada Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishati Yuga itam nimishena chakshusha pravisha itam shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahe name ashri shava padradam pinnashtumam adarsanam marmahatam karotuva yatha tatha bhavi tathatu lampato matprana nathastu se eva na paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes fire of conditional life or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity in large, because it spreads the rays and benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases ocean transcendent bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grant all benediction human beings. Thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out kindness enables us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate and have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Sanhamarjananda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow I fall into the ocean, birth and death. Please pick me up this ocean of death and place me at one of the atoms of your lotus feet. Oh my Lord, my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant the holy name. While my voice choke up, on hair my body stand and recitation of your name. Oh Govinda, feeling on separation, I'm considered a moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present for me. He is completely free to do anything, for he is always my worshipable Lord unconditionally. Shri Mangala Charanam prayers ki jai. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachate Shatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhanivi Devi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Jala Premadya Shurupa Nuga Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruta Pasiddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipalambara Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumistwan Niyadishta Sajanapriyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpa Turupishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurate Shen Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jaitam Surato Pangor Mamamanda Matekati Masarvasva Padam Bhoju Radha Madana Mohano Divya Dvindaranya Kaupajumadaha Shimadrana Kara Sinhasanastho Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Pishtari Bi Sevamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastitaha Karasham Vinustaner Gopir Gopinatha Shri Yestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Datar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Shri Guru Purnama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anatiradhe Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakhara Satmasuka Praviksha Laksha Riteshu Surabhi Rabhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Venum Kanantam Aravinda Dalaya Daksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kantarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Alola Chantaka Rasa Vanamare Vamshi Ranangadam Panaya Keri Kalavilasam Shamam Tripanga Lalitam Yata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Anganyasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pashanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chimmaya Satuchala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Advaitam Achotam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vete Shudurabam Madurabam Atma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Apanta Sukhoti Shatavasara Sampragamyo Vayuratapi Manaso Munipangavanan Sopyasti Yat Prapada Simya Vichinta Tatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Ekopya Sora Chayitum Jagadanta Kotim Ya Chaktirasti Jakadanta Chayaya Danta Antantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Pavita Diyo Manuchastateva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Pusha Suktaryam Eva Nikama Patitai Stuvanti Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananta Chimmai Rasa Patipavitapi Stapi Eva Nijarupataya Kalapi Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhutto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami premanjana churuta bhakti vilochanena santa sadeva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundam achintya guna swarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami ramadi murtishu kalanyamena tishtan nanavataram akaro bhuvanishu kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramah Pumam Yo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Shri Brahmasamhita ki jai. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, eating all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Sham Sundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, and is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms which are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Shakis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shama Sundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Nishinga, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. Shri Rama Samhita Ki Jai. Shrimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj Ki Jai. Glorification of the Bhagavatam. Shrimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadasya Yata Niviyadi Taratas Charte Survigya Swarat Tede Brahma Hridaya Dikavaye Muyanti Atsureyaha Tejo Vari Midam Vinimayo Yatra Tisargo Misha Damna Srena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Baram Dimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. Dharma projita kaichavocha paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atravastu shividam tapo trayon mulanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parer Ishvara Satyo Hide Avarudyate Trakriti Bihi Sususubhistakshana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from the illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam mahur aho raskabhuvi bhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Chinamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatyada Satarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Haribol, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today we're going to hear Canto 3, Chapter 10, verse number 18, and we're going to read right through to the end of the chapter. Now, what are we doing here exactly? We are beginning to see in very specific terms that the Bhagavatam gives a thorough explanation of how the creation has taken place. And if we compare that with what the so-called scientists have discovered about the creation, there is no comparison. The scientists only have guesses and theories and one theory debunks another theory. So they don't really understand anything. But now you're going to see how thorough, exacting, and to the point the Bhagavatam is about the creation of the material world. And then you can understand that scientists are bluffing, but Bhagavatam is telling the truth. Nowhere else can you get this information about who is God, how he created, how he's maintaining, how he will destroy. And everything is organized, everything is predictable, everything is being repeated over and over again. This is unbelievable. I mean, if you read this and take it seriously, you understand, hey, why am I wasting my time listening to this theory and that theory when here everything is explained exactly as it is. So now I'm going to let everybody read the texts. So text 18. Sad ime prakrita sarga
Sadime prakrita sarga
vaikritan api me shrinu
Vaikritan api me shrinu
raja bhajo bhagavato
Rajo Bhajo Bhagavato
lileyam harime dasa
Lileyam Harimedasa
sat
Sat
6
6
ime
Ime
all these
all these
prakrita
Prakrita
of the material energy
of the material
sarga
Sarga
creations
creation
vaikritan
Vaikrita
secondary creations by Brahma.
secondary creations of Brahma
Notice it said secondary creations, right? Api
Api
also
also
me
me
from me
from me
shinu
Shrinu
just here
just here
raja bhaja
Raja Bhaja
of the incarnation of the mode of passion
of the incarnation of mode of passion
Brahma
Brahma
Bhagavata
Bhagavata
of the greatly powerful
of the greatly powerful
Leela
Leela
pastime
pastime
Iyam
Yam
this
this
Hari
Hari
the supreme personality of Godhead
Supreme Personality of Godhead
Medasa
Medasa
of one who has such a brain.
of one who has such a brain.
Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All the above are natural creations by the external energy of the Lord. Now hear from me about the creations by Brahma, who is an incarnation of the mode of passion and who, in the matter of creation, has a brain like that of the personality of Godhead. Okay, so now we'll go, everyone can read one verse. Okay, so we'll go take turns reading the verses. Anybody?
A translation by Prabhupada. 19, right? Yeah. The 77th creation is that of the immovable entities, which are of 6 kinds: the fruit trees without flowers, trees and plants which exist until the fruit is ripe, creepers, 5 plants, creepers which have no support, and trees with flowers and fruits.
You see how precise this is? It's unbelievable, you know, and people ignore all this. Instead of this, they're just reading speculations and going around in circles and coming up with nothing. This is the real biology class, the real class of knowledge. Yeah. Next, anybody?
Text 20. Ustrotasastama praya
Ustrotasastama praya
antasparsha visheshina
antasparsa visesina
Translation: all the immovable trees and plants seek their subsistence upwards. They are almost unconscious but have feelings of pain within. They are manifested in variegatedness.
I mean, just look at the detail here. It's unbelievable, right? They are almost unconscious but have feelings of pain within. You know who realized that, or who did an experiment and proved that something like this is true? Yes. Yes. Yeah. And you can. I wrote a whole essay about what he did with panels and everything. We put up one year in the Ananda Mela. He is brilliant. He proved that plants have the same type of response as human beings. They feel pain. They have a certain level of consciousness. You see, because they're living beings like we are. And here, this just proves it. Right? They don't have the same level of consciousness as a human being, but they have parts of it. And it says they seek their subsistence upwards. They are almost unconscious, but have feelings of pain within. So Jagdish Chandra Bose proved this with his different experimentations. I'll try and bring that information out so you can see it. He was a brilliant person. Okay, next, somebody else.
Tirishcham Ashtama Sarga
Sarga.
Soshta Vimsad Vidomata
Sosta vimsadvidosnanta
Avido Bhuri Tamaso
avida buddhi tamaso
Granagna Hridya Vedina.
ranagya hidya vedyana.
The eighth creation is that of the lower species of life, and they are of different varieties, numbering 28. They are all extensively foolish and ignorant. They know their desirables by smell, but are unable to remember anything within the heart.
Okay. Huh? Yeah, read. Yeah, please.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Vedas, the symptoms of the lower animals are described as follows. Ate taresham pashuna ashna pipase eva bhivijnanam na vignatam vadanti na vignatam pashyanti na vidu svastanam na loka vidi yadva bhuri tamaso bahurusha gane naiva janati hridayam prati swapriyam vasdeva vindati bhojana sayanadyartam grahinti. Lower animals have knowledge only of their hunger and thirst. They have no acquired knowledge, no vision. Their behavior exhibits no dependence on formalities. Extensively ignorant, they can know their desirables only by smell, and by such intelligence only can they understand what is favorable and unfavorable. Their knowledge is concerned only with eating and sleeping. Therefore, even the most ferocious lower animals, such as tigers, can be tamed simply by regularly supplying meals and accommodations for sleeping. Only snakes cannot be tamed by such an arrangement.
Amazing. Amazing. You see? This is real knowledge. Okay, let's go. Next.
The farm also.
Huh?
The farm also we go, the dogs comes and start sniffing because they smell whether
They learn by smelling. They understand things by smelling, and they usually smell the butt of each other. You know, it's incredible. But now we can see that there's real science in the Bhagavatam, and there's just speculation everywhere else, complete speculation. And I'm going to give some examples of that, but let's finish this chapter. Go ahead. Somebody else.
Gaur Ajo Mahisha Krishna.
Gorajo Mahisa Krishna.
Sukaro Gavayo Ruru
Sukaro Gavayo Guru.
Dvisapa Pasavascheme
Dvisapa Pasavascheni.
Avir Ustrascha Sattama.
Avir Ustrasya Sattama.
O purest Vidura of the lower animals, the cow, goat, buffalo, Krishna stag, hog, Gavaya animal, deer, lamb, and camel all have two hooves.
Two hooves, yes. I mean, now see what's very interesting. Now, when you go to the farm, you can look at the hooves, and you can understand. See, this is all precise scientific information. Go ahead. Anybody else? Next.
Karo svosvataro gaura
Karo swaswataro gora
sarabhaschamarita
sarabhaschamarita
ete chaika sapakshata
ete chaka chaplantava
shunu panchana kanpashun.
shinu panchananakan pasun.
Translation: the horse, mule, ass, gaura, saraba, bison, and wild cow all have only one hoof. Now you may hear from me about the animals who have 5 nails.
Wow. Next.
Text 24. Swasarghalo rakho vyagro marjaraha sasa sallakau
Marjara sasasantuko
simha kapir gaja kurmo
Gaja kurmo
godascha makaradhyaya.
Godascha makaradaya.
Translation: the dog, jackal, tiger, fox, cat, rabbit, sajaru, lion, monkey, elephant, tortoise, alligator, gosapa, etc. all have 5 nails in their class. They are known as pancha nakhas, or animals having 5 nails.
Wow. Next.
Kanka Grudra Bakasena
Sena
Basha Balluka Barhina Hamsa Sarasa Chakrahwa
Sasarasa Chakrava
Kakulo Kadaya Kagaha. The heron, vulture, crane, hawk, basa, balluka, peacock, swan, sarasa, chakravaka, crow, owl, and others are the birds.
Next.
Arvakshotasta navamaha
Avrakshutastu navamaha
Shattareka vidonrinam
Sattareka vidurinam
Rajotika karmapara
Ajodika karmapara
Tukkecha sukamaninaha.
Dukecha sukamanina.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The creation of the human beings, who are one of the species only in whose stock there are eatables in the belly, is the 9th in the rotation. In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. Humans are always busy in the midst of miserable life, but they think themselves happy in all respects.
Wow. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Go ahead. Purport. Read it.
The human being is more passionate than the animals, and thus the sex life of the human being is more irregular. The animals have their due time for sexual intercourse.
So you see, human beings are more passionate than the animals. You see, animals, they only reproduce at certain times of the year. The rest of the time, they're very peaceful. The human beings, no controlling them at all. Go ahead.
But the human being has no regular time for such activities. The human being is endowed with a higher, advanced stage of consciousness for getting relief from the existence of material miseries. But due to his ignorance, he thinks that his higher consciousness is meant for advancing in the material comforts of life. Thus, his intelligence is misused in the animal propensities, eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, instead of spiritual realization. By advancing in material comforts, the human being puts himself into a more miserable condition, but, illusioned by the material energy, he always thinks himself happy, even while in the midst of misery.
In the midst of misery.
In the midst of misery. Such misery of human life is distinct from the natural, comfortable life enjoyed even by the animals.
Whoa. These are purports by Prabhupada, but you can see how profound they are. Okay. So, if we understand just this one purport, we have a chance to not be fooled by false education and not be fooled by misconceptions. The devil is in the details, and the details are that a human being is more passionate than the animals, and thus the sex life of the human being is more irregular. Now, what is the difference between a civilized person and an uncivilized person? A civilized person is regulated. The uncivilized person is not regulated at all. So the non-regulated so-called human beings, they're not civilized. They'll eat at any time, they'll sleep at any time, they'll mate at any time. They are not regulated in their habits. That causes them to get sick also and to have a lot of material problems. But still, they refuse to be regulated. But the regulated human beings that eat at the same time, sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time, bathe at the same time, study at the same time, worship the deities at the same time, etc., etc., etc. The best example of that was Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He had a very strict daily schedule. He would go to work. He was a magistrate. There was a top position in Indian national hold in the British government. So he had a big responsibility as a magistrate. He was a judge, and he had large territory that he was a judge of. And so he had to get to work, I think it was around 8 o'clock in the morning. And he would work until, let's say like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. Then he would go, he was also in charge of the temple of Krishna in the Jagannath temple. So then he would go take care of the temple business because he was in charge of the temple. It's a huge temple, right? And then he would come home and he would spend a little bit of time with his family. He would take a little bit of prasadam. Then he would go to sleep around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then he would wake up. From 12 o'clock to around 6 o'clock in the morning, he would write. And he had this one, he didn't have one of his watches that you have, with a band. He had one of his watches on a chain. And he would always be looking at his watch to be perfectly synchronated without any lateness. So this is the example of a highly regulated, highly civilized human being. regulated. And when a person is irregulated due to the mode of passion and ignorance, they can't really get things done. You know, you ask them to do something about 2-3 months later on, you say, "Well, did you get it done?" They say, "Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll get it done." Right? So this irregularity is a symptom of ignorance and a lack of self-control. So it says, thus his intelligence is misused in the animal propensities, eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, instead of spiritual realization. By advancing in material comforts, the human being puts himself into a more miserable condition. But illusioned by the material energy, he always thinks himself happy, even while in the midst of misery. These are huge statements Prabhupada is making here. Such misery of human life is distinct from the natural, comfortable life enjoyed even by the animals. They have a natural, comfortable life, even by the animals. I mean, it's an amazing purport if we try and understand what it's saying. So, here we see regulation for spiritual advancement is the real position of the devotee. And we should think about this very seriously. This irregulated life is a complete chaos, and it undermines our ability to understand Krishna consciousness and to function in it. Okay, so now next, let's continue reading.
So 3:10:27. Vaikritastraya evaite
Vaikritastraya evaite
Deva sargascha sattama
Deva sargascha sattama
Vaikarikastu ya prokta
Vaikaritastu
Kaumarastu bhayatmaka.
Omarastu Vayatmaka.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O good Vidura, these last three creations and the creation of demigods, the 10th creation, are Vaikrita creations, which are different from the previously described Prakrita, natural creations. The appearance of Kumaras is both.
Wow. All right. Next.
Text 28-29. Devasargashastavidho vivuddha pitaro suraha gandharapsarasa siddha yaksharaksha charanaha bhuta preta pishachaksha vivadhra kinnaradayah dashaite vidurakhyataha sargaste vishwasukrutaha. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The creation of the demigod is of 8 varieties. 1. The demigods. 2. The forefathers. 3. The asuras or demons. 4. The gandharvas and apsaras or angels. 5. The yakshas and yakshas and rakshasas. 6. The siddhas, charanas and vidyadharas. 7. The bhutas, pretas and pishachas. And 8. The superhuman beings, celestial singers, etc. All are created by Brahma, the creator of the universe.
Wow. You got a lot of people to meet.
Purport by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As explained in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Siddhas are inhabitants of Siddhaloka, where the residents travel in space without vehicles. At their mere...
Wow, that means they can just fly through the space with their body, like Narada Muni. Go ahead.
At their mere will, They can pass from one planet to another without difficulty. Therefore, in the upper planets, the inhabitants are far superior to the inhabitants of this planet in all matters of art, culture, and science, since they possess brains superior to those of human beings. The spirits and jinn mentioned in this connection are also counted among the demigods because they are able to perform uncommon functions not possible for men.
Yeah, the spirits and jinns, these are sometimes considered bad, but here it's explaining that they have some supernatural powers, so they're able to perform these uncommon functions that are not possible for men. So the the uh, the Muslims also, they talk about the jinns, and well, they they're on the, let's say they're on the borderline. They can go both ways. Uh, yeah, but you see here it putting Prabhupada is saying basically the spirits and the jinns mentioned in this connection are also counted among the demigods because they are able to perform uncommon functions not possible for men. So they're superior to human beings. Okay, so here we see all these gradations of and categorizations of human beings and superior human beings, inferior human beings, etc. This is scientific. This is precise. It doesn't say there may be or it's possible. No, it's just saying this is it. You take it or you leave it. But this is it, right? And he's being very, very categorical here. Okay, last one.
अतः परं प्रवक्ष्यामि वंशान् मन्वन्तराणि च एवं राजा प्लुतश्रस्त कल्पादिष्व आत्मा भूर्हरि सृजाति अमोघसङ्कल्प आत्मैवात्मनम् आत्मना. Translation. Now I shall describe the descendants of the Manus. The creator, Brahma, as the incarnation of the passion mode of the personality of Godhead, creates the universal affairs with unfailing desires in every millennium by the force of the Lord's energy. Purport. The cosmic manifestation is an expansion of one of the many energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Creator and the created are both emanations of the same Supreme Truth. As stated in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Janmadi Asya Yatha.
So there are many, many different energies of the Lord. And these are just some of them. There's a lot more. And here we have a clear-cut explanation of an aspect of the creation of the material world. It's not everything, because it's been an exhaustive explanation of it, step by step. Now, I want to just read something. I'm not going to read too much of it because it's so much blah blah, but okay. Now this is if you look up, let's say, what are the scientists' explanation of the creation of the world? Okay, you can look it up on the internet. So this is human evolution and climate studies suggest Homo sapiens evolved in southern Africa. Okay, so human evolution and climate study suggests Homo sapiens evolved in southern Africa. So that's what I'm going to read from now. So it says, where exactly in Africa our species evolved is one of the hottest points of contention in human evolution. Now a new study suggests Homo sapiens emerged in a single region in the south of the continent of Africa, of course, around 300,000 years ago. Key points. Climate shifts over the past 2 million years are believed to play a role in the evolution of our species. A study modeled changes in Earth's climate and linked habitable areas with known archaeological and fossil discoveries. The researchers suggest our species evolved in one region of Africa 300,000 years ago, but another theory challenges this idea. Well, here it goes, right? There's one theory, now there's another theory that challenges it, right? To reach their verdict, a team of researchers from South Korea and Europe simulated the Earth's climate history back 2 million years and paired it with the ancient human bone and tool discoveries. The study was published in Nature today, but not everyone agrees with its conclusions. There you go. Second debunk. Yeah. Study leader author Axel Timmermann from the Institute of Basic Science Center for Climate Physics at Pusan University said it's the first study to link archaeological evidence with long-range climate modeling to piece together a story of early human movement and evolution. And it turns out it's the longest climate simulation ever conducted with a model of this complexity. Ian Moffat, a geoarchaeologist from Flinders University, who was not involved in the work, said the study took a broad look at the engine room of early human evolution, Africa, Europe, and parts of Asia. These are the places that have historically defined the narrative of early human evolution. It's good that questions about human evolution are being asked using these rigorous approaches to the climate record. Ancestral digs. The human family tree isn't a neat and tidy series of branches. It's a tangle of forks, offshoots, and dead ends, with some limbs rejoining and intermingling multiple times over the millennia as different species interbreed and migrated. What compelled our human ancestors to wander into new territory was probably climate change, which could have made a home region less hospitable or neighboring areas easier to explore. Does that sound like science? Could have, saying, the human family tree isn't a neat and tidy series of branches. But wait a minute. What we just read in Bhagavatam is a neat and tidy explanation. It's precise. And here these people who are supposed to be great scientists, they have what they call, it's a tangle of forks, offshoots, and dead ends, with some limbs rejoining and intermingling multiple times over the millennia as different species interbred and migrated. What compelled our human ancestors to wander into new territory was probably climate change, which could have made a home region less hospitable or neighboring areas easier to explore. Does that sound like science? It's all speculation. There's no science there. That said, nailing down what the climate was like at a site that was occupied by early humans is a tricky task. What? A tricky task? That means they're not sure it's factual. Researchers can, for instance, date sediments and analyze bits and bobs like pollen lodged in the soil. Knowing what plants grew gives researchers an idea of the climate at the time. But the qualities that make archaeological sites like caves so good at accumulating fossilized bones and tools, they're sheltered, dry, and can remain relatively undisturbed by the outside environment, means they don't accumulate much in the way of climate evidence, Dr. Moffat said. Anyway, you see, this is a bunch of nonsense. There's no science here. This is all guessing, all theories, all one theory, then another theory, then another theory. It's not actually something that has any value to it as far as knowledge goes. Go ahead. Use the microphone.
Because when we studied, obviously the Homo sapiens were in Africa. That was the theory. So this is an article published in 2017 in Nature. It says the remains from Morocco, dated 315,000 years ago, push back our species origin by 100,000 years and suggest that we didn't evolve only in East Africa.
Oh, no. No, that's bad for Africa. We wanted Africa to be the place. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so they found this record of oldest Homo sapiens remains on record in an improbable place, Morocco. At an archaeological site near the Atlantic coast, finds of skull, face, and jawbones identified as being from early members of our species have been dated to about 315,000 years ago. This indicates Homo sapiens appeared more than 100,000 years earlier than thought. Most researchers have placed the origins of our species in East Africa about 200,000 years ago.
So there you go. 200,000 years or 300,000 years or whatever. It's all speculation. There's no facts here. You see, this is the state of the affairs right now. You're dealing not with science. You're dealing with a lot of theories and counter theories, and they're changing all the time. Every time they find another bone, they say, "Oh, wait a minute, we have to reclassify everything." You know. So, but does Bhagavatam sound like that? It's perfectly precise, right? So which one is the science? That's the question. See? Now, most people are not doing what we're doing. We're going step by step, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And as we do that, we're discovering for ourselves that the Bhagavatam is actually giving the real narrative, how the creation took place, step by step, and giving all scientifically verifiable knowledge about different species and how they evolved, etc. So this builds up our faith in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not just chant Hare Krishna, jump up and down, and eat prasadam. Of course, that's scientific also, and that is very important to become Krishna conscious. But you have all the knowledge to explain the most difficult subject, and that is the creation and how it took place and how it's being maintained and how it will end. And the cosmology of the whole universe. You're not going to get this information anywhere else, where it's explaining all the different planetary systems. There are three major planetary systems: lower, middle, and upper, and all the different living entities in those different areas, those three areas. You can't get that information anywhere else. And then goes beyond that, there's information about the spiritual world. And again, with the same exactitude of precise scientific knowledge. There is no, I mean, the scientists, they avoid the spiritual world. They say it doesn't exist for them. But see, Bhagavatam has knowledge that is material and spiritual. And everything is already been tested and proven to be true. Now we have to decide which type of knowledge we're going to accept. The speculative knowledge, it may be like this, it may be like that. Now we found out that we made a mistake. Homo sapiens might be 100,000 years older than we thought, blah, blah, blah. Or we're going to actually hear what the truth is, which is in this Bhagavatam. And see, we're only in the third canto, first part. Starting tomorrow, we're going to begin a whole new chapter, which is calculation of time from the atom. We're going to go into very deep scientific knowledge starting tomorrow, all about how time is actually calculated. And there's different aspects of it. So you see, here's Prabhupada, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was very regulated. He would hardly sleep 2 or 3 hours a night, and he'd be up most of the night translating. In 11 years, he was able to translate up to the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then his devotees finished the other 2 cantos. Just see what Prabhupada did. While we're all sleeping, he was awake. He was working. He was traveling. He was opening temples. He was answering letters. I mean, he did something that no one else can do. Once we begin to unless you actually read Bhagavatam, you're not going to realize all these things. And you suddenly say, well, wait a minute, I should be studying this. I shouldn't be studying this other stuff. This other stuff is all blah, blah, blah. So this is just to give you an idea. I mean, no one can be forced to accept something. You have to be convinced by gathering information. And that information comes bit by bit. It doesn't come all of a sudden, like a tsunami, right? Because you can't assimilate that. Little by little, we're realizing how profound this Srimad Bhagavatam is, and how much Prabhupada sacrificed his life and everything to make this available, and build a gigantic movement in 11 years to disseminate this knowledge all throughout the world. And in the meantime, the Bhagavatam has been translated in over close to 100 different languages around the world. We have a big job of helping people understand this transcendental knowledge so that they don't waste their life and end up always going back to the animal kingdom and having to come back again slowly to the human form of life, and then again getting fooled by modern education and so forth and going back again to the animal kingdom, right? At least we should learn at least we should learn what is the truth and accept it, assimilate it. Now, that doesn't mean you can't function in society. Yes, you can function in society. It doesn't mean you can't be married or have children or no, you can do all those things, but there has to be time set aside for Atma Tattva, the science of the soul. And once that science of the soul is assimilated through regular hearing and chanting and practicing Krishna consciousness, then we become fixed in Krishna consciousness. We become expert in dealing with the material nature, and when the right time comes, we completely dedicate our life to Krishna consciousness and go back to Godhead. Hari Bol. So stop right there. Are there any questions?
Maharaj, in the verse 3.10, 28 and 29, the creation of the demigods is of 8 varieties. One is demigods, the forefathers, asuras or demons, the gandharvas and apsaras or angels, the yakshas and rakshasas, the siddhas, charanas and vidyadharas, the bhutas, pretas and pichachis, and the superhuman being, celestial singer. My question is, Maharaj, they all are demigods? Now, like pichachis, bhutas.
No, they're not all demigods.
Why the translation started like this, Maharaj? The creation
It talks about 8 varieties.
8 varieties.
Well, they have superior powers. They're not on the level of human beings. So, like for example, between the Earth and Mars are the asteroids. The asteroids are inhabited by superior living entities than human beings. They have mystical powers, but they're mostly evil, or mostly, let's say, like people like, Hitler, Stalin, people like that come every once in a while to the Earth planet. They cause the death of many, many people, and then they go back again to their asteroid. So they're superior to us. They have much more scientific knowledge than we do on the Earth, but they're not like pure devotees. They have a, let's say, an evil, let's say, aspect to them. So you're talking about yakshas, rakshasas, and bhutas, they're ghosts, pretas, and pisachas. Pisachas are like witches. The superhuman beings, celestial singers, etc. So they're putting them all together as having superior powers to human beings. Okay? But some of them are evil and some of them are not evil. Okay? So you look at it like that.
And also next one is forefathers. What is the definition of forefathers, Maharaj?
Pitas. Pitas.
Pitas means our ancestors? Or
Yes.
Oh, they go, okay.
Yes.
And why they also consider us some
superhumans or more than human beings or more than ordinary human beings? Well, we can think about it. I don't want to say anything. I'm not sure. So we'll think about it. Come up with something. But I mean, your questions are good questions here. But it says the creation of the demigods is of 8 varieties. Okay, so some of those varieties are let's say, in mode of goodness. Some are in mode of passion, and some are in the mode of ignorance. Okay? So you look at it like that. As far as the pitas go, or the forefathers, I'll try and look up. You can also try and do a little research, find out more about that. Okay?
Because in Bhagavad Gita, I think 7th chapter, or when we pass on the body, it says, right, when you
What?
when you die, if you
Yeah.
think Pita or something, I have forgotten the sloka, right? Something is there actually. Pitradeva, I go to Pitra. That's what today I'm able to correlate something. Yeah.
Well, now you can do some research.
Yeah, I need to do, Maharaj.
You come back with that information.
Sure, Maharaj.
Now you understand why I said your homework the other day was to compare the scientist theory of how the creation took place as opposed to what we're reading now. And you're going to see there's a huge difference between the two. That the scientists, look, I gave you a little example of what they're talking about. It's all theory, speculation, and nothing is guaranteed. And somebody comes up with one theory, another group comes up with another theory. It's complete chaos. You cannot call that science. Now, on the other hand, there's what you call the hard science, like chemistry. Right? So chemistry is hard science. And nuclear physics is soft science, because it's all speculation. But the hard sciences are, you mix this acid with this base, and it gives you some reaction, and it's a predictable thing. So that would be called hard science, right? But that's not. I mean, it's not mixing the acid and the base, and you get a human being. No, nowhere near that. So, yeah, they can do things, and some of them seem to be very wonderful. But when it comes to creating, even like Prabhupada said, let them make one egg. You get an egg, right? You can analyze the egg and know what's in it, but they can't create an egg. They can't even create one egg. He said, let them make one egg, right, to show us that they know what they're doing, right? So there's a difference between mixing an acid and a base and coming up with a different chemical, as opposed to creating a living being. Okay, so now we see there are definite, what you would call limitations to what material science can achieve. Why? Because they're only dealing with 1/4 of reality. That's why they'll never be able to have complete knowledge. 3/4 of reality is in the spiritual world, and 1/4 is in the material world. So if you only study 1/4 of reality, you'll never get full knowledge. So what we're doing is studying everything, material and spiritual. Therefore it says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam vartate. Krishna is the source of everything material and spiritual. This is the knowledge that we're getting now from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes?
Yeah, Maharaj, one observation here is that starting from about the Brahma's creation, which is the 7th creation, it actually starts from the lower forms to the higher forms. So that's like 7th was immovable entities.
Which one is it? Which verse?
Starting from the 19th verse. So the 7th creation is that of the immovable entities. So then eventually eighth creation is the lower species of life, then goes up to the ninth, which is the human form, and then finally the 10th is that of the demigods.
Okay.
So is there a, I mean, I we'll have to accept as it is, but because if Brahmaji was the most capable person, is there any your realization or understanding on why he created?
Don't forget, all these categories are subject to the modes of material nature. All right. So it doesn't mean that they've attained spiritual perfection, but they have attained higher powers,
Capabilities, yes.
capabilities, right? So, but still, they're influenced by the modes of material nature. So there's a difference between a pisacha and a deva, right? Now, the pisacha has powers, can have powers like a deva, but while they're using it like in the mode of ignorance or the mode of passion. All right, so always remember the three modes of material nature. Unless a person is free of the influence of the three modes of material nature, they are conditioned, so they cannot be completely pure. And they cannot be spiritually liberated. So we're talking about the material creation here. And all these different categories exist. Right? But because there are living entities like the Rakshasas and so forth, they have superior powers. Look how powerful Ravana was. Only Lord Ramachandra was able to defeat him. Otherwise, Ravana was not defeatable by all the other demigods. He's a Rakshasa. But he has the same type of powers as, or many similar powers as Devas. So therefore he's put in that category. But he doesn't have the purity of Brahma. See, Brahma has much higher level of goodness. So always remember that these three modes of material nature are very active in the material world. And they're active on us also. So unless we free ourselves from the influence of the three modes of material nature, we will never be able to completely understand Krishna or to become free from the cycle of birth and death. And the only way to do that is to engage in pure devotional service. Then you transcend the influence of the modes of mundane goodness and you come to transcendental goodness. So I think that's the main point that we should take. Okay? Haribol. Thank you very much. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, why did Krishna or Brahma create these many varieties of species, or even in demigods there's like different kinds? Why do we need those many varieties, Maharaj?
Well, because living entities have the right to desire. So, why are there so many different models of cars? Why don't they eliminate the Teslas and the Japanese cars and just have the American cars? Well, because people want to have that variety. You see, so according to how we're influenced by the modes of material nature. Now, let's say you have the three basic colors, what is it? Red, yellow, and blue. Now, you can go to Home Depot, and they can mix different percentages of those three and come up with hundreds and thousands of different colors. It's the number of colors that they can come up with is almost unending. Now you have three modes of material nature. Just imagine how many varieties you can get by mixing them with different levels. You understand? That's why you have so many different species. I mean, it's mind-boggling, right? You know, you can say, well, let's just simplify everything. Let's just stop importing all the Japanese cars. No, that's not going to work. You see, people have desires and all kinds of crazy desires. That's why you have so many different types of bodies and different types of consciousness. Okay? Hari Bol. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now we're going to begin calculation of time from the atom. Hari Bol. Is it a holiday today?
Yes, Maharaj.
June 19 is the declared.
What's Juneteenth? What do they celebrate?
Slavery.
What?
Freedom of slavery.
Oh. Well, that's good for us because we're going to have class. Hari Bol.
The real freedom.
This is class team. Hari Bol. Go ahead, start.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando mui savadana bate Bando mui savadana bate Jahara prasade bai e bhavatoriya jai Jahara prasade bai e bhavatoriya jai Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoyte Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoyte
Krishna prapti hoya.
Guru mukha padma vakya chitit koriya kya गुरुमुखपद्मावक्या चितिते कोरियाक्या अरना कोरी हो माने आशा अरना कोरी हो माने आशा श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उतामा गति कृष्ण प्राप्ति होय जहाँ होय ते गुरुमुखपद्मावक्या चितिते कोरियाक्या अरना कोरी हो माने आशा अरना कोरी हो माने आशा श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उतामा गति जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्वा आशा जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्वा आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय जहाँ रचरित वेद गाय जहाँ रचरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनार बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनार बंधु लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना হা হা প্রভু কর দয়া দেহ মোরে পাদা ছায়া হা হা প্রভু কর দয়া দেহ মোরে পাদা ছায়া এবে যাস গো সুখ ত্রিভুবনা শিলা প্রভুপাদ পতিতা পাবনা জয় প্রভুপদ জয় প্রভুপদ জয় প্রভুপদ জয় প্রভুপদ नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंदा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaga Saraswati Shishi Shimad. His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Brahmacharya Sulhari Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapura Dan Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dan Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanand. All glories to the Son. All glories to the Son. All glories to Son. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavani Ki Jai.
Of our spiritual masters are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet today, however.
By his grace, walk across the ocean of pure suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my conscience purified by the words emanating from his lotus feet.
Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires.
He opens
He
my
darkened
darkened
eyes and fills my heart with treasure of no knowledge.
He
He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic premonitions, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing my skin. Our spiritual master, devotional bliss, the friend of the poor, and Lord of master devotees. O Master, be merciful to us. Give us the shade of your lotus. Your fame spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste, Saraswati Devi. Go to Premanande.